All right, let's talk about something that gets everyone fired up. Big pharma and vaccines. It's this crazy mix of life-saving science on one hand and just ruthless capitalism on the other. And honestly, it's left a lot of us feeling really confused. So today, we're going to try and untangle this whole thing. We're going to push past all the noise, the wild theories you see online, because the real story about the pharmaceutical industry, well, it's actually way more boring and frankly, way more disturbing than any conspiracy. Let's stick to what we can actually prove. So, how did Big Pharma get so powerful? Well, the first thing you have to get your head around is that this isn't some secret plot hatched in a hidden volcano lair. Nope. It's all built on systems that are perfectly legal and are happening right out in the open. And what's wild is just how, normal it all is. First up, patents. A company gets a 20-year monopoly. No competition. That means they can charge whatever they want. Then you have what's called regulatory capture. Basically, the people who are supposed to be the watchdogs often come from the very industry they're watching. And finally, lobbying. We're talking about an army of lobbyists in Washington, D.C., literally outnumbering the members of Congress. See? No secrets. This is just how the game is played. So the ultimate goal isn't some shadowy plan for world domination. It's written right there in their annual reports for everyone to see. The goal is simple. Make as much money as possible for the shareholders. It's not about being evil. It's about having a legal duty to be greedy. Okay, so this is where that profit motive starts to create some really messed up incentives when it comes to our health. It creates this huge conflict between what's best for us, the patients, and what's best for the bottom line. And this slide just nails the core problem. Think about it. From a purely business perspective, a one-time cure is a terrible product. You sell it once, your customer gets better, and they're gone. But a lifetime treatment for something like diabetes or high blood pressure, that's the jackpot. That's a recurring customer for decades. They don't want you dead. A dead customer can't buy pills, but there is zero financial incentive to actually make you well. And if you want the poster child for this, the most heartbreaking example, just look at insulin. This stuff costs about $5 to make, and it's sold for over $300 a vial. This isn't some conspiracy. It's just a market reality that has forced people to ration a drug they need to stay alive. It's profit maximization at its most brutal. And insulin isn't a one-off. We saw this with Purdue Pharma, who knew how addictive OxyContin was, but pushed it anyway, kicking off the opioid crisis. We saw it with the EpiPen, when the price was jacked up 500% for no good reason. These aren't theories. These are well-documented cases where profits were put way, way ahead of people's lives. Okay, so we've established it. The business model is all about chronic treatments and lifelong customers. But this is where the whole anti-vaccine story hits a giant logical brick wall. Let's look at this paradox. Let's just ask the question directly, right? If your entire business model is built on getting customers for life, why on earth would you heavily promote a product you sell to someone maybe once or twice ever? From a purely business standpoint, it just doesn't add up. I mean, look at it side by side. A vaccine is a one-and-done sale. A chronic medication is basically a subscription service that can last for 40, 50 years. If you're looking at a spreadsheet, vaccines are a terrible business line compared to the drugs that manage lifelong illnesses. And this right here is the fatal flaw in so many of these theories. They assume the plan is to intentionally harm people. But the agenda isn't malice, it's just greed. And from a greedy point of view, you want living, breathing customers who keep buying your daily pills. A vaccine that prevents a disease in the first place, that's just bad for that kind of business. So, if the business logic for these conspiracies doesn't really hold up, why are people still so afraid? Well, this is where we have to pivot from corporate accounting to human psychology. Because this is really a battle between cold, hard math and very powerful, very real feelings. And we have to acknowledge this. We have to validate it. When someone gets a vaccine and has a really bad reaction, feeling so sick they think they might actually die, that's a powerful story. That personal experience feels a million times more real than any chart or statistic a doctor can show you. But what's actually going on inside your body? Well, there's a scientific term for that awful feeling. The fever, the aches, the total exhaustion. It's called reactogenicity. And here's the thing. It's not a sign that something is wrong. It's the sign that your immune system is firing on all cylinders and learning how to fight. That miserable feeling, that's the feeling of it working. It's a feature, not a bug. And this just perfectly highlights our biggest weakness as humans. We are terrible at judging risk. A tiny 1.5 million chance of a serious vaccine side effect feels absolutely terrifying, but a much, much bigger 1 in 100 chance of getting seriously ill from the actual virus, our brain just kind of shrugs and says, it'll be fine. We are wired to make these huge decisions based on gut feelings, not on the actual math. So what happens when a whole society starts making decisions this way? What's the real-world price we pay for mixing up our totally valid anger at Big Pharma's business practices with fear of the proven science behind vaccines? We don't have to wonder anymore. This isn't a what-if scenario. The bill for all this confusion, well, it's here. And the price is absolutely devastating. Polio. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Polio. A disease that our parents and grandparents basically wiped off the map in the developed world. A disease that should only exist in history books, is now showing up in the wastewater of major cities, and it's paralyzing people again. This is the direct, physical price of our confusion. You see, the skepticism around the COVID vaccine, it didn't stay about COVID. It was like a gateway drug. It opened the door for people to start questioning decades of science we all took for granted. And now, vaccination rates for measles, for MMR, and yes, for polio are falling. We are actively, in real time, undoing one of the single greatest public health victories in all of human history. And that brings us to the most important point of all the conspiracy theories, all the fighting about microchips mandates, it's a distraction. While everyone is arguing about that stuff, the real, legal, documented exploitation is still happening every single day. The real fight should be about getting price controls on life-saving drugs. The real fight is about reforming the patent system. The real fight is about banning those ridiculous drug ads you see on TV. That's the stuff that would actually change things. At the end of the day, Big Pharma isn't some monster that just appeared. We built the legal and political system that allows them to operate this way. So the real question isn't about who to blame. The real question is, what are we, all of us, gonna do to fix what's actually broken?